October 1st, 2025. Let's talk. That I talk about in my videos concerning my life and my experiences in China have got nothing to do with anybody else. They are my experiences. If your experiences are different, it does not mean that you are lying or I'm lying. I'm basically sharing my experiences. So let's respect my experiences. If you have your own experiences that are different, you are free to share your own experiences. For now, I'm talking about my experiences. Let's put that out of the way. Now let's talk. Today I want to talk about things that I've seen in Chinese schools that I found different from the things that I witnessed in my own schools where I come from. Okay, at least during the time that I was growing up and the time that I was in school, we didn't get to see these things, or these things were done differently. The first thing I want to talk about is an afternoon nap. Yeah. In China, students sleep in the afternoon. They take a nap in the afternoon during lunchtime. So they have their lunch, and after eating their lunch, it is mandatory that they take a nap. You might ask, like, how long is this lunchtime that students even have time to nap? I think that's where the question is, right? Well, our lunchtime is very long. It's not a lunch hour. It's hours of lunch. So lunch usually starts at 11:30, and it usually ends at 2:30. For some schools, 2 o'clock. Also, depending on the season, in winter, we start our afternoon classes at 2 o'clock. In summer, we start our afternoon classes at 2:30 for most schools. It is general consensus that students need to nap after eating their lunch every day. And in kindergartens, it's even worse. They have little beds that they actually keep in schools, and they bring in their bedding. In schools like the middle school, the high school, some schools only have a pillow or a cushion where a child then puts the cushion on their desk and they rest their head and sleep. Companies have come up with different ways of designing classrooms, designing desks to accommodate that part of the curriculum where students have to take a nap. So that is something that I actually found different here, because where I come from, I want to believe that kindergartens actually have nap time, but now here it's across the board. Now I'll tell you how deep this culture is. This nap time culture is so deeply rooted that even office workers nap during lunchtime. Teachers nap. Bank workers nap. They literally shut down banks for the workers to rest. Like, that's how important this one is. Right. And it's even more important in schools, because most schools actually have student cafeteria. So students can go to the cafeteria, have their lunch, and then go back to the classroom and sleep. But even those that don't eat cafeteria food, they go home, they have their lunch, they take a nap, and they go back to school. That is one. The second thing that I found that is a bit different is the rate at which students drink water. I think I mentioned that in one of my videos. It's very common to see in universities, to see flasks of water lining up in front of classrooms, because students constantly go out to drink water. And because also maybe sometimes their dormitories are very far from the teaching buildings. So a student will carry a 2-liter flask of hot water that they will drink throughout the day as they study. Okay, that is very normal. With little kids, they actually have shelves. I think I've mentioned this in one of my videos. They have little shelves where they place their water bottles or their cups, and they're constantly drinking water. There's a 10 minutes break between classes. So that's the time to drink water. Go to the bathroom, come back, and wait for the next class. So there is a culture of drinking water, not just water, but warm water. But in elementary schools, they usually have like a water dispenser in the classroom, or there is a water dispenser in one corner in the corridor, at the end of the corridor, at the end of the hallway. There is a water dispenser. They're a huge thing that's like 100 liters, and it dispenses hot water and cold water. Another thing that I noticed that is a bit different. School here starts very early. and it ends very late. I mean, like a school day starts very early and it ends very late. Students are usually in the classroom by 7:20 and they finish usually 5:30, 6 o'clock. But that's not like to say we are done for the day. No, there's always an after dinner study where students actually stay in the classroom until 9 p.m. Yeah. Sometimes teachers are even there and the teachers are actually conducting classes, or sometimes there is just monitors are monitoring everybody to make sure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to do. Trust me, even if they are not teachers, the students in this country, the students that I've experienced, they respect authority. If you are a monitor, you're a figure of authority, so people listen to you. Where I come from, students will just raise their hands anyhow and sit anyhow. In China, students raise their hands like this. So this is how you hold your elbow like this and your hand is upright. You are trying to get the teacher's attention. This is how you get the teacher's attention. You just don't. Comes to sitting, students sit, they fold their arms like this when they're sitting. And then they are resting on the desk. It's just that my camera is up. So if I rest my arms on this desk, you won't be able to see. So I'm going to. There's even a supporting object that some students actually put in front of them, especially on their study desks at home, so that they are always upright like this. They do not bend over like this. They are always upright when they are writing. There's a lot of stuff that helps students to stay upright. They are so concerned about posture. Posture is very important. So a student needs to sit up. Even the teachers sit up. But of course, kids will always be kids. It's not every time that they do that. Sometimes they forget. Sometimes they just choose to mess around. But there's always also a trick that I learned concerning how to get students to stay in that position. It's a question of teaching your students, especially the little ones, when you first introduce yourself and you introduce yourself to the class, you teach them certain commands and what they mean. There are a lot of commands that teachers shout and the students understand what the teacher is saying. For example, you are giving them instructions. I want you to do this, 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 this. Okay, so now you want them to start doing what you just told them. If you say, ready, they all say, go, and they start doing it, because that's what you have told them. You can have your own commands. Some teachers say, 1, 2, and they all they know what 1, 2 means, right? They all know when the teacher says this, it means this. When the teacher says this, it means this. So you need to have your own little commands that you teach your kids, and then as soon as they master those, it's easier to manage your class than not to have anything. And then after school, right? Where I come from, we have, I don't know what my extra lessons are. Yes, we have those here, right? But there's also an after school where it's a real school that is run like a real school. But this school usually starts at 5:30 p.m. and these schools go up to 9 p.m. Students go to their normal school, and then when the parents identify an area where this child needs to improve, they'll enroll them in another school where there is intensive tutoring. It's not even one-on-one, no. It's also another class there. Most of them are teaching English. They're actually called training centers. Most of them are just English training centers where students are taught English. These schools are very active and very busy on Saturdays and Sundays because during the week, it's after school. After the kids have left school, then they come to this training center. They spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then they go back home. And then there's Saturday and Sunday. This is where the school starts 8 in the morning and they go all the way up to 6 p.m. Another thing that I observed in China, homework is very essential, right? You do not teach kids and not give them homework. The parents will start to question, what kind of a teacher are you if you don't give kids homework? To them, homework is very, very important. It's just as good as the lessons themselves. You need to give kids homework. When they get home, they should not just come and relax and sit and do nothing. They should come home and be busy with their homework. Some of these kids write their homework until like 10 p.m. That's when they go to bed. So most Chinese kids, I'm not saying all of them, but most Chinese kids don't watch TV. They don't play games. They don't have time to see their friends. They see their friends in school, but after school, it's busy, 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 busy. There's homework. There's a training center you need to go to. And then there's also some students that have private tutors. These private tutors actually come into their homes. Right. They have private tutors that come into their homes that teach them whatever that they think, the parents think that their child is lagging behind. If it's an English private tutor, they come in for an hour and a half every evening, or twice a week, or whatever. And then they are tutoring this child one-on-one. Homework is a very important part of the Chinese education. We can't talk of Chinese education without talking about homework. No. That would not work. That would not even make sense. And also, Chinese children are very busy, hey? They are super busy. I always say that the Chinese parents want to put all their eggs in one basket. Whereas if I have 5 children, one can become a pilot, another one can become a nurse, another one can become a singer, a dancer, whatever. I'm okay. But most of them have one child, and that one child should be all those things. So you find one child who has dance classes, they have guitar classes, they have piano classes, they have an English tutor because they must speak English, they have a French tutor because they must speak French, they have a Chinese writing tutor because they must be good, their calligraphy must be on point, they must know how to write their characters correctly. So one child is carrying the dreams of both parents. Whatever they were not able to do, they want to realize it through this one child. Whatever they would have wanted their children to be, they are going to force it on this one child. So Chinese kids are generally very much overburdened. Like they are always busy. They have so much going on in their lives. Like they don't have time to rest. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying the majority of them. Because Chinese parents are also very competitive. Once they realize that their neighbor's child is already saying 2-3 words in English, that can't sit well with them. They have to make sure that their own child is saying 10 words already. So there's a lot of competition, and that keeps kids very busy. Okay. Another thing is, yes, I spoke about one-on-one tutors. That's okay. Now, there's also a very important part of the Chinese education system, which is keeping fit. Chinese kids have to stay fit. In the midst of their homework, there are so many back-to-back classes. They are very demanding teachers. There is time for exercise. They have PE classes, right? But on top of the PE classes, there is time for exercising as a school. So break time, the kids exercise. They go outside and they line up and they exercise. If it's raining, if it's snowy, if it's windy, if the weather does not permit them to come outside, they would do it in the classrooms. Like, it's so rhythmic. Like, everything is just so on point. Everything is so systematic. They know the dance moves. They know what to do. They know exactly what to do. Like, it's every school that I've been to, there is that routine. After break time exercise, they actually call it the big break, where what we call tea time in the morning tea time, right? For them, it's exercise time. It's exercise time. Then there is another interesting one that is also a bit controversial: reciting. Yeah. Chinese kids have a photographic memory. I don't know if it's the way they are or it's the way they are taught from a very early age. They can recite a whole story. Like, reciting is part of the culture. It's part of the learning culture. You have to be able to recite things. You have to be able to recite things. Now, whether they understand what they are reciting or they don't understand it is also a different topic altogether. But reciting, you must. You must be able to recite. Like a child can tell you a story, like a whole page. They can recite a whole story. But then when you ask them comprehension questions, they probably won't be able to answer any of them because I'm not sure if they understand their story or if they're just reciting. Now, side note, talking about comprehension, this is how most Chinese teachers teach students on comprehension, how to answer comprehension questions. They do not encourage them to read the whole story. They say it wastes time. So what they encourage them to do is to go to the question, read the question, look for a probably like a keyword in the question and try to find that keyword in the story and then read around that keyword and then you find your answer. Let's go to the last part, which is the Gaokao examination. This is the mother or the father or the queen of all exams in China. This has actually been ranked as one of the most difficult exams in the world, the Gaokao. It's like a national event. This is a national event. Trust me, it's a national event. It's like everything comes to a standstill when this exam is running. You even have notices on apartment buildings reminding you that students are taking the Gaokao examination, so you need to be quiet. Like in your apartment building, if there are students in your community, you need to be quiet. You need to give these kids space and quietness to study. This is a national event. I don't know if you can understand what I'm saying. It's a national event. So what is Gaokao examination? The Gaokao examination is probably like, it's the equivalent of the A-level exam. It's the equivalent of the matric exam. It's the equivalent of the high school exam, like the final high school exam. But here, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Roads are closed just to allow buses to move, to take students to the examination centers. The police are on high alert. Like nothing should disturb this exam. Nothing should stop a child from attending that exam. Like it's a national event. It's a national event. Weeks building to this exam, you see kids studying everywhere. You see kids staying in school for like 24 hours, 18 hours. Kids are in school. Parents bring their children food and they give them over the fence, over the gate, because kids are like in some sort of concentration camp. It's actually a study camp. So parents have to bring food to their kids and they eat over the gate and they quickly give them the balls and they go back. Like it's a national event. It's that important. Everybody knows when it's going down that Gaokao is in session. Like weeks building up to that, you see on the subway, everywhere, kids are blah, 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 blah. Like what I say, that they recite. Even when they are preparing for exams, they recite. They read out loud. I don't know if it helps them understand better, but they read out loud. We go into a study session and you find everybody's quiet and concentrating on their book. But here it's different. Everybody's shouting at the top of their voice, reading what is in their notebook. Very, very difficult exam, and it determines your future. You only have one go. Why do I say you only have one go? It's because you only sit for that exam once a year. That exam it's a once a year event. So if you miss it, if you fail, it means you have to wait another whole year to take the exam again. And it also determines what kind of university you go to. It's what somebody is working towards for the past 12 years. Their focus is on. From the time they're in kindergarten, they're already being told, there's Gaokao, there's Gaokao, there's Gaokao. So it's really a very, very difficult exam, and it's a national event. Like you can see that Gaokao is in motion. Things are happening because the atmosphere changes, like literally. Nobody wants anybody to disturb their child. And after the exam is done, the celebrations are insane. Like, there is celebrations. We don't care about the results. For now, we are celebrating that we are done, that phase is over. You see students burning books. You see parents celebrating. You see students doing like, what do they call them? Okay, I'll put some videos of how the students celebrate. There's just excitement. There's just, everybody's overjoyed that this thing is finally over. And then, of course, the wait for the results begins. But anytime before that, we are in celebratory mood. We are happy. We are happy that it's over. So those are the things that I've observed about the Chinese education system. There's an afternoon nap. The students constantly drink warm water or hot water. Schools start very early and they end very late. And then students have to sit up all the time. Like, I'm actually slouching right now. They have to sit up and they have to raise their hands in a specific way to get the teacher's attention. And there's always after school, like, training centers. At one point, those training centers were actually banned by the government, but they're coming back again, and I think they've put in place new policies to govern those training centers. There's a lot of one-on-one tutorials, like parents hire teachers to come and tutor their kids at home one-on-one. And then there's a lot of exercising. There's PE class, but there's also exercising during break time. Reciting is very important. It's very important for a student to recite a whole text, even if they don't understand what it's saying. And then finally, the build-up is over. There's Gaokao examination, which is crazy, insane. But yeah, that is the education system. That is the things that I've observed about the education system in China. So tell me about your education system where you are. Is there an afternoon nap for all the students? How is the environment when it's time for the public exam, the final high school exam? What's the attitude in the people? How is the air? What's going on there? And about drinking water, how is that? Do students have to constantly drink water? What are the habits that students constantly have to do in the education system that you are in? And yeah, let's keep the conversation going. So this is my little contribution. Like I said, this is what I have witnessed. If you have witnessed something different, do well to share with us what you have experienced. Be blessed and stay safe. Bye-bye.